All I got to say is if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen, all right?
Oops, like we messed up, and they just kind of do the Homer Simpson. Like,
Parents, quit telling your kids to be nerds.
It's happening in so many places. So is that the same premise in all these places?
Welcome to the Goat Show, the show where we celebrate and debate all things great. With me are my co-hosts, Fresh, Deezy, and today, special guest, Josh Clements. And man, we have a great show coming today. Josh is a dear friend of ours, and you know what? I think he's a goat. I think you're a goat, Josh, because if it's called the Goat Show, we're going to interview goats on this show. So we have a lot to talk to him about, especially if you're into creativity and art and design, and if you love skateboarding, illustration. Josh is a serious talent. And a professional, and we're going to talk to him all about that kind of stuff. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody out there, if you're new watching this and you're you enjoy what you see today, you should definitely what should we do? We should like, right? We should share. We should comment. But if you comment, I don't know. I personally want nice comments. I don't know what you
Nah, man. I say this every time. They don't have to be nice. Can you just make them witty? I like a good roast. You know what I mean? I just like, you're ugly, you're fat, you're gay. Like, that's not really funny. You know, you can say it if that's your level of, you know what I mean? But
right.
I really do enjoy a good roast. So I would like to hear about like how you think my chain's gonna turn my neck green, or you know what I mean? Like, come on.
Okay, yeah. So if you're gonna comment, either way, positive or negative, make sure they're creative, because that's what this show's all about today. And talking to Josh, we're gonna be getting into different aspects of creativity and goatedness. So if you're gonna leave comments, right, Deezy, do you agree that they need to be creative? They need to be well thought out. They need to be,
Listen, all I got to say is if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen, all right? If you're dropping some comments, I'm coming for that ass. Okay?
Oh, damn. Okay, well then, with that, I just want to say also, this is the first. I think this is the first road recording of the Goat Show. Am I correct? This is the first time. Normally, I'm in Florida. I ain't gonna say we're in Florida. I don't want y'all, trying to find me. All right, but I'm just saying. Normally, I'm in Florida and recording, and but I'm kind of going on a little trek. I'm up here in NYC, New York City, they call it. Hanging out here for a little while. I'll be, next week, which I'm really excited about. I'll be in Toronto with none other than Fresh. Fresh, you know what's funny is that we have never met in the flesh. Never met Fresh in the flesh. So
I don't know how I like that sentence, but I'll let you continue.
Ain't nothing scandalous about that. It's just maybe you might press the flesh with a handshake, maybe a high five, maybe a fist bump. You know what I'm saying? But nothing more than that. We don't want to go Diddy.
No, you got to give the homie hug. You know what I mean?
Homie hug.
Okay. You shake. You flip. You pull each other in, and you 2 dots on the back, 3, and it's gay.
Okay. I'm gonna have to rehearse that and remember that because I'm not sure. But I'm looking forward to that with Fresh. So that's gonna be exciting. We're gonna do that next week, and we actually have another interview next week, so that'll be interesting. And then after that, I'll be in Las Vegas, of all places. No, I will not be gambling the
yes, you will.
The $10 we earn from the show. I will not be gambling that. I will be there for an interesting seminar. I'm not going to say with who just yet, but it's somebody that probably in the future will come on the show, and going to be learning some different skills and making some networking and making some connections that hopefully will lead to good things for the show. So I'm really excited about that and looking forward to that. But without further ado, I'd like to get to Mr. Joshua Clements, a good personal friend of mine. Let's give it up. Let's give it up. Let's give it up. I want to go even further. I want to go even further. Josh, man, I want to give you a toast. On the Goat Show, we like to do toasts. normally I have a toasting glass, but I would like to toast you, good sir. We've been through the trenches together in different ways. We are both creatives in a world that does not understand us as creatives, and we have to navigate that and survive that. And you've done that for many years, so I just want to give you a toast, man, and cheers to you, good sir.
Raise a glass to that.
Raise a glass, pour one out. Either way, we're
Pour
doing
one
it.
out.
But so, all right, man. Listen. First of all, NYC. I know you have you been to NYC a bunch? I know you've been here a couple of times. What are your thoughts on NYC? The vibe here, the culture.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, I used to go to New York all the time. Used to stay out in Queens, on Elmhurst, and I have friends all over. It's funny. I was just reminiscing about that today because I've been watching all these movies that take place in New York, and then like I was like, man, it used to be so sick. I used to love going there. I used to go all over, and with or without friends, even when I was on my own, just like going around the city, checking everything out. Just like museums and everything is just so cool there. But I mean, every time I hear about it now, it just it's like a shell of its former self.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if it's that wild or if that's just the internet. I don't know. The internet's kind of wild right there. They'll show you all
yeah,
the bad
yeah.
shit.
Yeah. I mean, I felt the same way. And then, as you know, last year I was here for about 3 months for another project, and man, it's hard. I love it. I mean, I really do. But I've been here when it's warm and it's not super cold, and you can go out and walk everywhere. But the last 2 days, I will say the Metropolitan Museum of Art is unbelievable. I don't know. I
And
mean,
Washington crossing the Delaware.
I saw that.
Yeah,
It's. I didn't realize how huge that painting is. It's
it's
massive.
massive, and it's in.
Yeah.
If you look closely at it, it's in a sick ass like gold frame that has like eagles on it and stuff like that. It's like totally
Yeah.
Americaned out. Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
there's a
yeah.
crazy ass history with like that museum in Central Park, and then like uh, the Guggenheim Museum is right there. That like that was like Museum Mile they call it. And of course, I was just out in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I went to Frank Lloyd Wright's winter home, Taliesin
Oh.
West. So
Oh.
he's from Wisconsin, and a bunch of those Midwest people are all snowbirds, and they go down to Arizona.
Huh.
And but he designed the Guggenheim Museum, so Peggy Guggenheim hired
Oh.
him to design that spiral museum that's there. And if you watch,
Yeah.
Men in Black, like one of the first scenes, like with Will Smith,
Yeah.
he chases that dude inside of there. Like they go up the spiral
Right.
museum up to
Right.
the roof and everything. Yeah,
Right.
so it's a really famous museum. It's actually like cracking. There's like all kinds of cracks
Oh.
in it and stuff like that because of the way it's structured. It's like its own weight is like weighing on it or some shit. So,
Right.
but I mean, yeah, just like the Society of Illustrators, and of course the Polo Mansion is right there. Ralph Lauren Polo Mansion is there. You can go get lunch there. It's a really nice place.
Oh wow, I didn't
Uh,
know that.
but dude, I've been all over. Like the Chrysler Building, the tallest brick
Yeah.
building in the world, is in New York. It's one of my favorite architectural pieces in all the United States. Of course, the Statue of Liberty. We were just talking about the Statue of Liberty the other day, and the real symbolism behind that. That's really deep. We don't go there.
Okay, so
It's
let's
just
yeah. I want to talk to you a lot about history because so not only for anybody watching, not only is Josh an amazing illustrator, creative, art director, all that stuff, but this guy, his knowledge of American history, particularly, I believe, like Civil War history and California history, right? Are your, if you're out there and you're a historian and you're from, you're a California historian or you're a Civil War historian, I dare you to try
no.
and talk to Josh.
Dude, like, well, next time you're over at like the Verrazano Bridge in New York,
Mhm.
The eastern base of that building, right? There's two towers that hold up the bridge, right? So the eastern tower of that, the base of that building used to be a fort called Fort Lafayette, and it was a
Okay.
prison where Abraham Lincoln sent all the journalists. So any journalist that was like against him and against the war, he had arrested them and sent them to Fort Lafayette. So that
Wow.
base that's there, that bridge, is an old Civil War fort prison that used to be there, but now it's not
Wow.
there anymore. Now it's the base of the bridge. So there's all
Wow.
kinds of crazy ass history.
Yeah. All right. Well, I definitely want to get into that. We'll talk a lot about that later because the other thing that I know you have a lot of knowledge of, which is related to goats, is secret society. So I wanted to sort of your historical perspective, all that kind of stuff. But for now, I want to keep it on you, man. I want to sort of introduce you to the people who may be watching out there, who you are, sort of your story. So we have to call it the superhero origin story, and I'm just curious. Switching coasts. You grew up in the Bay Area, is that correct?
Yeah, well, sort of like the North Bay area. I came from a city called Fairfield, which is right in between San Francisco and Sacramento. So it's right next door to the Napa Valley. So Vallejo, E40, Mac Dre, all of those like famous rappers from that area. That's where I grew up in Solano County. And but then when I was 19, I moved to San Francisco, and I lived there for about 10 years. And then moved down to Los Angeles and Long Beach based now.
Right.
So,
What are your thoughts on? I'm kind of curious about that with the Bay Area, San Francisco. What time period would you say that was? Like the early 2000s, or was it later than
when
that?
I moved to San Francisco?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2005.
2005. Because
Yes, yeah, I went to the Academy of Art, 2005 to 2009. So that was my college years.
Right.
And then I was working in video games for a long time there.
Oh, nice.
Which was that was a really fun time in golden era. And anytime I meet anybody, my old friends from San Francisco, we just reminisce. There's so many stories and just like house parties and bars, and all my friends were DJs, so we're at all the parties, and we went to sick concerts, and it was just like big jungle gym, man. We just played around there all the time, big playground. It was so fun.
Yeah, that's what when I meet other people who lived in the Bay Area at that time, they say like the same thing, and I'm just kind of curious. A lot of times, what they say is that compared to now, like now, it kind of lost its I don't know. Like, do you feel like it's lost its artistic heritage, or its kind of cultural personality?
Well, I mean, if you want to get deep into the history, when the gold rush happened and all that stuff, like that, it was called the Barbary Coast, and it was 90% men that were living there. A lot of brothels and stuff like that. A lot of the women ran the entire city because they had all this power, they had all this money, and so it's always been kind of had this lawless kind of craziness to it. A lot of eccentrics, and so it's always kind of had that kind of aura about it. Even 1969, the Summer of Love, when all the hippies came out, and Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and all these people were all living on Haight Street. And it used to be after World War II, it was like a blue collar neighborhood, Haight Street. And then the hippies kind of moved in and took it over. And then it became like this hub of, communal living and, free love and drugs and all this other kind of shit. So it's always kind of had that like vagabond bohemian kind of like vibe to it. So to say that, now it's like that, it's like, well, actually it's always kind of been like that. It's like San Francisco's always kind of had that essence of it, but to the degree where it is now, it's insane, man. It's just like, it's so sad because I've had friends tell me, they're like, oh, like I want to go with you to San Francisco and check it out and show me all your spots. And I'm like, it's dangerous. Everybody I know that used to live there pretty much moved out. I don't think I know really anybody that lives there now. I probably do, but most of my friends have moved out, and it's usually because something violent happened to them. Either they were mugged or something crazy, assaulted, something crazy happened to them. So it's really, really sad that, like, I mean, you think of like beautiful cities in the United States, like something like Boston or like San Francisco, there's like this city with like beautiful vistas everywhere, beautiful Victorian architecture, just art on art. Like it's an art city, and then just to see it hollowed out the way that it has, it's like, that's sabotage, man. Like, I don't know how else to describe that. Like everything that's happening in California is being done on purpose. They're sabotaging it. My belief is that they want to sabotage it, make it unlivable, so then they can come in and do a big real estate grab and say, "Oh, we cleaned up the city and everything else." So same thing kind of happened.
My problem with that is that it's happening in so many places. So is that the same premise in all these places? Because in Toronto, it's that bad, and in BC, it's worse.
Yeah. I mean, that is a good point. I just kind of think of like, I was going to say that's what happened with Giuliani, right? So throughout the 80s, through the 70s and the 80s, like Central Park was like a no-go zone. Like you didn't go there day or night. It was really run down. And then in the 90s, they say that Giuliani came in and cleaned up the city and made it safe and was just introduced all his police activity and stuff. I think he had all the homeless people secretly killed, but you know what I mean? That's my conspiracy brain. But I'm saying like, but no, I mean, but now you can go to Central Park now. But funny thing about Central Park is that it's owned, or not owned, but it's operated by a private company. So there's a Central Park Conservancy, and it's all of the businesses around Central Park that all collectively buy in, and they pay, because if you're living there on the park or you have a business, it's in your best interest that the park is clean and safe and everything else.
Right.
So
Right.
all the businesses, like this is like a free market solution to, say, oh, what about parks and all this other stuff? It's like, no, if the companies around there, the people that live on the park, they want to keep it clean and safe. So they have a financial interest in making it look that way. So, yeah, I don't know, like it is an epidemic, right? Like,
yeah, well, I guess my question, because you live there for a while and all that, because there's always been a little bit of a dark edge to not just the Bay Area, but like all of like California, Southern California too, with like all the serial killer stuff and like Charles Manson, and so I feel like there's always been a dark edge to California through the years. But I am curious if you feel, it sounds like you feel like the situation there currently is pretty bad, and it's maybe the worst it's ever been. I don't know. What do you feel that way, or?
For sure. Like I was saying, I don't even feel comfortable bringing people there and going there and visiting, and wouldn't leave my car alone for, longer than 5 minutes. Like it's bad. Everybody talks about they get the car broken into, even the people I work with, they were up there filming like some skateboarding stuff. Bunch of dudes ran up on them, jumped them, stole their film equipment, stuff like that. And
wow.
Fortunately, the police like tracked them down and were able to like get their stuff back. But it's really wild out there, and it's just so like I just feel like Garcon and all that, and obviously Gavin Newsom, like they're so soft on crime. They let these people right back onto the street on parole. Like I'm not some kind of like I'm a libertarian. I'm like, oh, okay, well, like I'm for like drug legalization. I'm not like some kind of crazy like unleash the police and beat them over the head with nightsticks. I'm not that kind of guy. But there has to be some type of like order that's going on there. And if the taxpayers are paying for some type of like security and they're not getting it, then the quid pro quo is being broken, right? Like there's supposed to be an agreement. We pay taxes to be kept safe, and it's like that's not being upheld. So it's just such a bummer, dude, because that's such a special place, and I don't mean to treat San Francisco like a museum, because it doesn't have to be the way that I think of it in my head. It's evolved before me and now after me, so like that's how it's supposed to be. But just the state of affairs that it's in now, it's just so like
well, and it's not evolving, right? It's devolving.
Yeah, devolving indeed.
Right,
right. It's just a bummer, man.
Yeah,
like when I was younger, it was kind of cool. It was exciting, right? Like, it's like the city has a pulse. Like, oh, there's all these eccentric, crazy people.
It's always somewhere that I wanted to go.
Yeah. Oh, it's got like a little edge. It's got grime or whatever. That's cool. Like, oh, there's hippies and stuff like that, but nobody bothers anybody. And like that was fine. Everybody coexisted. And now I just feel like it's actual legit violent crime. Like that's just unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like
it's not. You're saying that it's not fostering an environment of, because that's what I always found interesting about, like, say, New York, or like New York in the 70s or whatever. That definitely, it was pretty wild in the 70s and 80s in Manhattan. But for whatever reason, maybe just because it was cheaper to live there, it did foster a certain kind of artistic environment or cultural environment, like whether it's like Warhol and that whole thing, or
City
punk
Lights
rock or whatever.
Yeah, North Beach, City Lights. That's all the beatnik, all that stuff, like generated from out of there. And of course, like I already said, like the Jimi Hendrix and the Janis Joplin and Jefferson Airplane, and like they're all like Jerry Garcia, like all the Hippie Hill that's out there, that big 420 festival that goes on every year there. Like there's a crazy like historic art scene that's been there like since forever. And it's just like I don't even really know what the scene is like now, so it's kind of hard for me to like really give my full judgment on the art scene there. But like from what I've seen, it's just not what it used to be. It's just hollowed out.
Right.
It sucks.
Right.
Yeah. But I call that home.
Well,
I've always felt like that was home to me, and like I lived there for a decade, and even when I was a kid, I used to go there all the time. And as soon as I got my driver's license, like that was a fun thing to do. It was like, oh, let's go drive out to the city and let's go go wherever, go to Haight Street. Just you had no money, you
right.
just walk up and down the street and just check shit out and like get inspo and meet people, and it was
Yeah.
cool. And now it's like I can't imagine having like a 16 or 17-year-old now and being like, oh yeah, let's go out to San Francisco and like have fun. Like
Right.
no,
Right.
I wouldn't
Right.
doing that now. So
Well, I wanted to. You touched on something there. Talking about your friends' experiences with trying to record, the skateboarding content and stuff like that. I want to know. I want to understand sort of how skateboarding entered your life. I'm assuming it entered your life at a younger age while you were living there. Because for anybody who doesn't know, Josh is the lead art director, right, for Thank You Skate Co. and Grizzly Griptape. Is that accurate? And illustrator.
yeah. Yeah, I'm a lead designer over at Grizzly. I work with another designer over there, but for Thank You, that's pretty much all designed by me and
Yeah.
quarterbacked by me. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's my bread and butter. Thank You and Grizzly Grip Tape.
Right, right. Yeah, so I'm just curious, because so you're in gaming, is my understanding, for like 10 years, right? And then how did sort of all this other stuff come up with because we'll definitely show some images of your work, but man, your art is so cool. It's like I don't know, you do these really intricate sometimes it's like psychedelic shit, but sometimes it's like kind of cool flips on like corporate things, and then sometimes it's it just really runs the gamut in terms of uh what you create. And it just feels, I kind of envy you in certain ways, because I feel like what you have, the relationship you have at the companies that you work for, they really give you kind of free reign, right, to like kind of concept and do what you think is cool, and it is cool. So there's like, I mean, there's nothing to even worry about. I'm just saying, like, it's just fascinating to me. So I'm just kind of curious about that journey from going from maybe the video game stuff, and maybe you could talk about that a little bit, and then into what you're doing now with the art direction of skateboarding companies and things like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know me, like freedom is just so important to me.
Right.
Like that's one of the most important things in my life, and I think it's one of the most important things in human existence. But
Yeah.
like, I'm very fortunate to work with like amazing people who give like have full trust in me and give me full freedom to design whatever I want to design. Of course, they're involved too. I have other people that I work with, and it's not just me and anything. I have amazing team by me, and like they help me out with so much. And but for the most part, yeah, I am given like free range, and I think that's the beauty of skateboarding. Skateboarding is such an individualist thing. It's youth driven, always has been, and that's what's
Yep.
so fun about it, and that's what attracts people to it as well. That people
Right.
like look at it and they're like, damn, like look at what that person's doing. Like they are just in their zone. They when they fail, they keep trying and trying and trying again, and I feel
Right.
that
Right.
same way about art too. It's like you're looking for the artistic breakthrough. You're constantly trying to push yourself and get better. And you're looking at your peers and you're like, what are they doing? Oh, that shit looks so cool. I want to do something like that. Like you keep pushing
Right.
yourself and pushing yourself. And I was saying that that's one of the things I like about skateboarding is like, it's one of the only sports where your peers are constantly like trying to like hype you up and get better. And like, they're trying to
Right.
help each other. So
Oh,
I
that's
saw a meme
interesting.
one
Yeah.
time where it was like, what the mom thinks that the skate park is actually like, and they think it's like all the gangbangers like smoking and drinking and like doing all this stuff, and it's really like the older kids are like helping the younger kids, like, no, land your kickflip like this and like land it clean and
Right.
jump off of this, and
Right.
like they're always trying to help each other like get better and stuff, and they're encouraging too. Like when somebody
Yeah.
lands something, everybody's like clapping, like banging their boards, and they're just like, yes, you did it. I saw you trying to get that, and you finally got it, man. Like you broke through, you made it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what, like
Okay.
there's something like super positive about skateboarding, and it's so funny that it has, skateboarding's not a crime. It has like this kind of aura about it that it's like this edgy street thing, and it is. There's something very hesh and carefree about skateboarding, but like
Mhm.
at the same time though, it's like I know a lot of dudes who have said like if I didn't have skateboarding in my life, like my home life was fucked up. Like my parents were abusive. Everything sucked. And I had to get outside. And fortunately for skateboarding, I could go around the city wherever I wanted to and get away and escape. And it's a individualist sport, you know, like you don't have to have a full team. Like there's some equipment, but it's not super duper expensive. You can get a hand me down sometimes. So it's just like, it's what's so cool about it is that it's urban and it's just raw and it's still so fun. You know, it's like I said, it's youth driven.
Yeah.
Youth driven things are always going to be fun. That's why I do illustration and art like that, like cartoons and all that other kind of stuff. You're trying to like, what does Picasso say? Like every person is born an artist, but then they get trained like out of it as they grow up. You know, and I think
I didn't know
so
that.
true.
Yeah.
He has some kind of quote like that, but it's like I think that that's so true. Is that we have all this creativity when we're young, and all this desire and like, you know, lust for life and looking for something like that. Like, and I think that skateboarding provides that. It's still fun and youthful. Same thing with art and design and everything, and even video games where I worked before. That's youth driven. You know, so I think that there's a part of me, I guess, that's always trying to like hold fast to youth. Like, you know, you got to mature at some point, but at the same time, though, that you shouldn't disregard like the things that make life fun, make life worth living. You know,
there's so many fascinating things from everything you just said. The first thing is, I never thought about that with skateboard. Yeah, you're learning to do you're learning to do something, and you're not going to get it the first time, and you're gonna, you know, and you might wipe out hard, like you know, and you might experience pain even.
Well, you're going to. If you skateboard, you are going to wipe out. You are going to feel pain. Like, bro, I cracked my teeth from here to here. Like the bottom part of my two front teeth aren't even my two front teeth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just, you know what I mean? You fuck around and you find out. But again, I agree with Josh that like, and I've been noticing it in skate videos recently, is that you see they're cutting in the parts where they fail, they bail. The guys are bigging them up, like it's okay, get back up. You know what I mean? And then they go and they hit the set again and again. And it's like the video is 2 minutes long and they wipe out for 2 minutes straight. And just in the last 10 seconds, they get it. And then everybody goes wild, right? And
bro, I mean, I went to I think it was last year. I went to the premiere of Ryan Sheckler's new video that he just dropped with Red Bull, and in the video he does this crazy ass like it's like this embankment off of the Encinitas like City Hall sign, and it goes down this crazy like concrete bank, and he's trying to he's not just like diving in, he's doing a kickflip into it, and so he does it like. I don't even know, like 24 times. He like leaves one day, he's just feeling defeated. He's like, I'm just never going to get this clip. And I could just imagine like that was probably such a big challenge to him, just looking at it every single day and like, I know I can do this. I know it, but he can't land it.
Right.
But we watched the video and it kind of shows the struggle of him like battling with this spot. And then when he does finally hit it, just the whole audience, everybody in the theater is just like standing up and clapping, just going crazy. And it's just like, you get that cathartic like sense of accomplishment, like when he does finally like he hits it and rides away. And even when he did that, there was a bunch of spectators, like a bunch of random people on the street, like, oh my god, like they're not skateboarders, just like random people on the street.
Absolutely, but it's amazing to see, right? It's wild to see, and you'll notice like a lot of these videos, these guys are wearing different outfits, like the same. They're trying the same trick, but it's like 15 different outfits, bro. They're back there. For 15 days, they never landed it. You know what I mean? And then on day 16, they hit it.
Right.
And I think that like there's a lot you can learn from skateboarders.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
For a young person, like it teaches them perseverance, and that's one of the main things that I don't think that we appreciate enough as human beings is perseverance and redemption. And like, you know, you're gonna fuck up, you're gonna fail, you're gonna fall. Like they always say, like your first podcast is gonna suck, your first piece of art is gonna suck, your first whatever you do is gonna suck, you know, but you keep trying until you hit your sweet spot and then you get comfortable with it and everything. But everything worth trying is gonna be difficult in the beginning. And that's what I love about skateboarding is it's about perseverance. It's about you keep going. Same with art. you keep trying to get the new breakthrough, and you hit the writer's block or the creative block, and you're just like, okay, how do I advance myself? How do I become a better whatever it is? Anything you do, you know, better chef, whatever it is, doesn't matter, you know.
Right. When you you know, were you always sort of someone that was into the art and like me personally, I was always like doodling something, or I was always trying to do something creative or coming up with ideas. Were you always that way, or is that creative instinct something that you had to develop over time?
Well, I mean, I've been drawing since I was a little kid. You know, when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of money, and I had a lot of time alone to myself.
Mhm.
And there's nothing cheaper than a pencil and paper, and you can do whatever you want with that. And then I
Right.
found out, like, once I was pretty good at it, so oh, people actually like this, you know, like when I make my drawings and stuff. And so I used to draw cartoons for my friends, and like my friend's like yearbook, I drew like a big ass like M Bison from Street Fighter. I drew it like all sick, and then like everybody was like, "Oh, do that in my like yearbook," and I was like, "I can't do it in
Right.
everybody's yearbook."
You start charging
But
them like
yeah,
$5.
totally. Yeah, well, that was another thing. I didn't even realize that I had a shitty art teacher in high school, and he was the worst. And I just wish he could see me now, you know, because he was
Wait,
such a
wait, wait.
shithead.
So wait, hold. So what would he do? Why would you say he's the worst? Or
Well, I was excited to take art class in high school, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like this guy's gonna teach me like how to paint and how to draw and how to do all this cool stuff." And he would just be like, "Oh, you know, paint these like he had like a block and a sphere and the cone." And he'd be like, "Okay, just paint this," and then he'd go sit on his computer and like go wouldn't even talk to us or do anything. And I was like, "What is this? Like, I thought you were gonna
right?
teach me something here." And so we always butted heads. And I used to
Mm.
hang out with my friend, this girl that lived in my neighborhood. So we kind of grew up together and knew each other. And he would tell her, he'd be like, "Oh, don't hang out with that guy. He's not going anywhere." Like I was like behind my
What?
back and stuff like that. Yeah, like oh, what
Really?
the hell? She'd be like, "I don't know what his issue is." And I remember
Wow.
like I actually like wrote him like an email, and I was like, "Dude, like you suck." Like I just like I kind of told him off, and he's just like, "All right." Like then I left his class, and I was like, "Dude, screw it. I'm never going to another art class ever again. I don't want to do anything with
Wow.
art just on my own." Like, and I was doing graffiti at the time, and I was painting with my friend all the time, doing art at the house. And then after, I didn't really graduate from high school. I had to get my GED after, so I wasn't into school or anything like that. I was a slacker, class clown, didn't really give a shit about any of that stuff. And then my mom was like, she went to an art auction in Seattle with my aunt, and she was
Okay.
like, "Oh, she's like, damn, look at how much like this art is selling for. Like, you can make money doing this." And so she was like, "Oh, why don't you go like check out the art college and like maybe look into that?" And I was like, is there such a thing? Like, I didn't even
Right.
realize that
Right.
there was an art school and make a career out of this stuff. I had no idea. And so when I checked out the school, I was like, "Oh my god, like I could live in San Francisco and like go to actual school with other artists and learn all this shit." And just my
Yeah.
work mentality has changed like that, like overnight. And I just like went full on into art and just like committed to
Isn't
it.
that wild, man? Like when we were, I mean, when we were kids and teenagers, like nobody told you any of that stuff. Like, oh, you can, do art as a profession in some way. There is this thing called being a designer, or, what I'm saying? Like making, like there are schools for this kind of stuff. Like you would have to like I remember I have to go to like Walden Books, and then I remember for a while I was interested in movies, and I seen Pulp Fiction. So I went and got the Tarantino script that they had in like Walden Books. And then in the back, they had an ad for the freaking New York like film school or whatever. And I was just like, I mean, you could not get this knowledge readily. You had to be like invested in something to find that knowledge. And I'm kind of curious, like in your case, um, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, is that better? Like, I feel like now everything's at our fingertips. You could just literally open your phone and Google's right there, and you can search anything in the world that you want. And I almost feel like sometimes maybe because of that, there's less investment, and because there's less investment, there's less, um, I don't know, maybe drive or focus, or do you feel like it's just one of those things where when you find what you love, and it's just gonna, sweep you off your feet.
Yeah, well, I mean, people ask me sometimes like, "Oh, well, how do I get to do what you're doing?" I've had a lot of young people,
Right.
especially when I worked at other companies, like dudes who weren't like they work in the warehouse or something like that, and they would like catch me on the side and be like, yo, like, how did you get to like draw and do what you're doing and all this stuff? Because I love to do art and everything. And I'm like, do I need to go to college or whatever? I was like, that's the route that I took. I took out student loans. I went to like a real college, learned from like experts and stuff like that. And I value that education that I got. So that is an option for people, but it's a blessing now that we have all of these tutorials and stuff available to us at our fingertips. So all the information is out there. If you're truly, truly curious, you can go on YouTube and you just start from there. And like what I always did was, even when I was younger, you copy the masters, you copy your favorite artists, and you learn what they did, and then you add your own little flair to it. And that's how it's like art is always passed down. Is other people copy from other people, all the famous artists all copy from the other famous artists. And it keeps getting better and better and better. And so all those options are available to anybody. If they want to learn how to paint in Photoshop, there's tons of tutorials out there. People teach. I'm still a student. I still go on there, and like if I can't figure something out, or if I want to learn a new technique, I go on YouTube and watch like an hour-long tutorial and be like, oh, okay, like that's a technique I wasn't using before, and you add that to your arsenal. The Photoshop and Illustrator and all these programs, they're just a tool. They don't do the artwork. I mean, I guess there is some AI generation now, you can do that, but even then, it's just a tool. It comes from your mind. It depends on your skill set and what you can actually do and think of. So it's not going to do the work for you. So it's a tool. How you use that tool. So
I have a question about did you ever struggle with any type of self-doubt or imposter syndrome? Because I know for me personally, when it came to design, I feel like only recently, like in the last year or two, I'm like, okay, I know how to design something, I could trust myself and my instincts. I feel like for 15 years or something, I would always have the self-doubt or imposter syndrome. I'm curious if you've ever experienced that. And I don't know if you've ever figured out a way to work through that. Because I think that, or do you feel like that you have to just do the work to get through that? I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would say like none of it fell in my lap. There were a lot of times, especially when I first started off. It's so funny because, to some degree you kind of feel like, oh, like, okay, like, I'm getting hired and getting paid to do this professionally, so I must be pretty good. So you start to think that you're really good, and then you progress, and then 10 years later, you look back at your old stuff and you're like, oh my God, like I thought I was good then. Like, so there's always room for improvement. But then, I remember when I worked at Primitive Skateboards, that was like one of my favorite places that I worked at, because just the other designers I worked with, we had a dream team of designers, and everybody was good at their own thing. Like I had a guy that was really good. He's like a tattoo artist. He did like typography, like freehand, like typography. And it was so sick. And like, I was such a noob at like typography and stuff like that. I was just kind of learning, but I gleaned so much from learning from him. And another dude who was like really good at like doing photo collage. I learned a lot from him. Another dude who was just like another amazing, just like graphic designer. And I took all these things. So my thing was like, okay, I can do cartoony stuff, and I can do like digital painting, and I can do all that kind of fun stuff. But now that I'm around these other people, I'm gaining more skills by learning from them and being around them. And I feel like all of us as artists all like elevated just because we had that creative energy in the room. Like my dream would be to like have like a design studio and have all my friends work with me, and we just design cool shit, like advertisements for all kinds of companies. Like, maybe someday. But when I was working at Primitive, though, that was the most fun and like the most like creative I ever felt, because this is everybody around me. So, but then I also felt like I felt like I belonged there. I definitely felt like that kind of washed away some of that imposter syndrome. It's sort of like, oh, I'm not that good. All these other guys are so sick, and it's like, no, like I'm a part of this team because I bring a skill that's my own skill. Like this one time, I was listening to a podcast with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he was talking about like he was comparing himself to all these other wrestlers. He's all, damn, like that guy can like do a backflip off the top rope, and that guy has all this charisma, and this guy has that and that. And he's all, should I be incorporating that into my shit? And he's like, no. It's like, just stay in my lane and do my thing, because that's why you're there, is to do your thing, and not to be like other people. Change your shit is to be like yourself, because people want your personality to shine through.
Right. I was going to say earlier when you were talking about uh, being in that environment at Primitive where you're with other people. I sometimes wonder, is it better for a young creative not to just go the solo path and instead get a job in a, for lack of a better word, a corporate environment or a company environment where they're working with other people to sort of get their legs before they decide to strike out on their own? Because I sometimes feel that in society we're telling young people a lot of times, which I do think is justified in certain fields, to forget school, forget getting that job, go be an entrepreneur, go make your money, get your mills, and then live your dream life. What do you think about all that? And when it comes to creativity and art, do you feel like it's good for younger creatives to go through that process of being in an environment with, in a more like corporate environment or whatever?
Ain't nothing like getting that paycheck, especially as an artist. Ain't nothing like getting that paycheck on the 1st and the 15th, and you
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
"Yes, sir, I'll be there at 9 a.m." Do the work, ready to show up, ready to be a team player, ready to do whatever they want,
Right.
and that's how you get your foot in the door, is by showing up and working hard and like showing other people that you love what you do. I mean, you're making art of all things, right? It's like, I mean, you should be passionate about whatever career you have, but if you're an
Right.
artist, like you better take that shit seriously, like it's just a blessing to be able to be an artist for a career, especially these
Yeah.
days. Like, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
damn, like we should feel so fortunate and so blessed that we are able to do that for a career. So you better show up. You better give 110% to your clients and to your boss and your
Right.
team, everybody else.
Right.
Like, build up all those skills and build up your reputation and build up your portfolio. Then later on, you can do your own shit, and then you're like a little mini celebrity, and you can kind of like sell your shit here and there, and now you can have your Instagram pop in and like get all these clients and stuff like that, and branch off
Right.
on your own. But
Right.
ain't
Right.
nothing like having like an actual job,
Right.
and working with somebody, and also when you're on the job too, like you learn all these other things about marketing and like sales and how actual businesses work and shipping and like all this other shit. So that's something that I had to learn, when we started Thank You, me and Torey, like I had to learn. I mean, he's such an amazing businessman. We both came in completely green, didn't really know anything, and so learning like, oh, you got to be ahead of schedule to get this finished. It's going to take 3 months to get it produced, and then you got to market it and put it out there and like make sure it sells. And so there's so much more to like the art realm than just like, oh, I
Right.
made a cool picture, here it is. Like,
Right.
no, you got to manufacture it. You got to find the manufacturer. You got to figure out how to market it to the audience and shit. So yeah, it's a whole thing. So, but yeah, get in there where you can get it. If you can work for a business first, that'd be the best thing to do.
So let's talk about Torey, your relationship with him, and Thank You Skateco. Torey Pudwill, world famous skateboarder. Uh, how did that even happen in the first place? And what sort of like what's your working relationship there? Because I know that I think I'm correct in saying that you have the most freedom. I mean, you really are, the person that concepts and illustrates and designs and kind of, for lack of a better word, runs that side of that business. Is that accurate? Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, of course, he gives his 2 cents and he's involved
Sure,
and
sure,
everything,
sure,
but
sure.
for the most part, I come up with most of the ideas and kind of present them and say this is what I want to do, and he just
Right.
kind of green lights me pretty much all the
Yeah.
time, and then he says, "Oh, I want you to also add this X, Y, and Z." Like, so he'll give his ideas too.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
going back to San Francisco, so his now wife, who I knew from back in the day,
Oh
they
wow.
used to have a bunch of friends that we used to party with, and so we were all old drinking buddies and all that shit. Like
Yeah.
they had a big group of girls and we had our group of guys, and we would all like meet at the bar and party together and party at their house and everything. So we knew each other for a long time, and of course that carried over years later. And then later on, she's like, oh, like, well, my boyfriend at the time, she's like, my boyfriend wants to start a skate company, and I was like, oh, like, who's your boyfriend? Like, like I was like, who's this guy?
Right. Right.
She's like, oh, Torey Pudwill. I was like, oh, okay, like, yeah. So
Yeah.
I came over to his house, and he literally had like a whiteboard of like chicken scratches and scribbles of just like all of his ideas that he wanted to do, and he had a list of all the skateboarders he wanted to ride on the team, and he was serious about it. And I was like,
Right,
okay,
right.
like this is not just goofing around here. It's not just like, well, I was thinking maybe I could make a skateboard or something. Like, no, he's like, no, I have a full game plan of what I want to do, and I need a designer. And so I was like, look,
Yeah.
like, if you can, if you're serious about this and you really want to start something, like I'll design the whole thing for you.
Yeah.
And so just from then on, we just worked together, and we've been there since we pressed the first
dude,
skateboards.
how amazing is that? When I was growing up, all right, my parents I've talked about it before, bless their souls, but they were like, Indian immigrant parents. It was like, get in the books, don't talk, don't party, don't hang out with the homies, don't be chasing skirts. Yeah. Don't be hanging out with these whites. No, they like white people. I won't say what they didn't like. All that kind of stuff. Hey, I didn't say nothing. I love everybody. All right. All the genders, all the races, all of that. All right. Just you ain't gonna cancel me today. No, but like it's hey, Deezy, man. You come on, man. Do you think of me like that? You think of me like that? Yeah. I saw it. No, no. But listen, my point is that uh, they were like, do that nerd shit. And now when I look at all the people around me, people like Josh and other people I know that are successful or in any walk of life, whether it's like just the jobs they have or whatever they're running or their relationships, all that shit comes from like hanging out with people, you know, having a beer or going out. Like it's so
Oh,
much of it
it's
is
not. It's never what you know. It's always who you know, right? Always.
yeah,
And it's like the thing is people think like, oh, I need to know Joe Blow at the top of the fucking. Nah, bro.
no,
It's not what it is. It's these weird, obscure relationships that you fostered like at different times in your life, and then like all of a sudden you walk in a room and you're like, oh shit, that's Johnny from fucking grade 9, bro. I remember when you know what I mean? And then now you're locked in. You know
right,
what I
right,
mean? And so I think it's so much about who you know. Um, also, of course, build your skills. You need to be able to do
sure,
stuff
sure,
to keep things going in the long run, right?
right,
But
right, right, yeah,
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, aside from like the skills that I gained while living in San Francisco and going to school there and working there, like the connections that I made, the networking, like that was just as important.
right, right, yeah,
well, because think about all the people who go to school but don't make the connections,
yeah,
right? And then they come out of school and it's like somebody who didn't go to school gets that job because they know they know the
yeah,
best friend of the boss's daughter's daughter, you know what I mean? Like,
right, right.
so again, I think that it's at least as important, if not more so.
Right. Yeah. I feel like if you decide to go to college and do that whole road, which is, legit depending on, whatever field you're in or whatever. But to me, uh, the most benefit I've had from, you know, my college years has been the people that I know and the connections that I made, not because they were somebody. It's just, they were just people that I met. And then they end up, doing things. And then sometimes you're hopscotching, sometimes they become the guy or whatever, or the gal. So, I just find that so fascinating.
No, I was gonna say, I think it just speaks being a well-rounded person is what you really want to do. You can't be
Mm,
one-dimensional. You can't just be like, oh, well, I'm the best artist or whatever. It's like, okay, well, that's one
mhm,
thing, but like, can you work with the team? Can you figure out these other things? Can you solve problems? Can you do whatever?
mhm.
So, are you charming? Are you all these other things? Like, are you smart? Are you, like, you got to keep expanding on your skills and like never stop. Like,
Right,
you can't just be one-dimensional.
right, 100%. You should also, join a secret society. That helps. That also helps. So, it's not. I mean, you can hang out with the plebes, but at some point, you got to commit. Josh, easy
Is it plebe or is it pleb?
pleb. Oh,
A plebeian. A plebeian is a citizen of the Roman Empire.
I
mm,
thought it was plebeian though, is what I like.
Yeah, plebeian. It's kind of tomato, I think. So a plebeian is a citizen of the Roman Empire, and a barbarian is anybody that lives outside of the Roman Empire. So if you're German
So
or
now let me
else.
ask you something. Are you plebeian or are you barbarian? And I want why as well.
Well, I mean, I guess technically, like I would be a barbarian, like,
No,
living outside of the
no,
sticks.
because the Roman Empire never died; it turned to the Roman Catholic Church.
Right.
So,
Or the Holy Roman Empire.
so now, I think that you are plebeian. I think that we're plebeians. I think
We're all
that we live
plebeians?
in.
Yeah, we're all
Yeah.
yeah, we're
Damn,
all
man.
plebs.
I want to be one of the special people, Josh. I want to be one of the elites.
You want to be a Domenici, dude?
Speak on
Well,
it. Speak
what you
on it.
could
The
do is you could
Medici,
be
eh?
like me. You could start to learn Hebrew. I'm learning Hebrew. You
Okay.
could,
Let's talk about this.
There you go.
Why
Born in Rome.
are you learn Hebrew? What?
why?
You know, you
Okay,
gotta.
Yeah. What led you to this path?
so I mean two things, right? Like I have a friend who lives in Israel, and he I mean without saying too much, he basically said like there's a lot more to like Hebrew writing than there is to English writing. Like English, there's one line, it says what it says, like you can kind of read between the lines, but there's no actual other meaning. And in Hebrew, supposedly there's 4 meanings for every sentence. And so yeah, so you have to learn like all the different aspects of Hebrew, the letters and then the meanings of the words and stuff like that. And so I'm intrigued. I think that there's a lot of secrets that are probably written in Hebrew that people like us who just read English or whatever don't get and don't understand.
Are you talking about like modern, like a modern dialect of Hebrew, or are you talking about like that
Well, I'm
Cabala?
starting with the modern dialect of Hebrew because that's what's on Duolingo, right?
Well,
But like
when are we
once
going Cabala, bro? When we going straight? Is that how you say Cabala?
soon, let me learn a little bit of, you know what I mean? Like,
We need to know the
geez.
secrets, bro.
Listen,
The
I'm gonna
not the
learn
Hebrew
Hebrew, then
alphabet.
I'm gonna learn Arabic, and then I'm gonna learn Aramaic. Okay,
Oh
and
dang.
then when
Oh
I learn
dang.
the trifecta, then we're gonna ascend. Exactly. See?
Oh shoot. Okay. We gotta talk about these signs, man. Man, Josh
Well,
Fresh has been committing us to secret societies for which I do not know what they are, but he has decided he does the owl sign. You know, when we talk about Drake, he's been dropping the OVO sign. That's my sign usually, the rock and roll sign. So he's been committing us to
that's to
secret
ward off
societies.
evil spirits.
Oh, okay. So we're warding off evil
That's what that
spirits with
means.
that one.
Ward off evil spirits.
Oh, okay.
No, well, dude, real quick, dude, I want to talk about the Hebrew alphabet because each one
Okay.
of the letters like matches up with a number, right?
Okay.
Kind of like gematria and all that stuff, right? And also
Can you
the Star of David. The Star of David, you can create every single Hebrew letter out of the Star of David. So if you look it
Oh.
up, there are charts, and you can look at the Star of David, and you can write each letter like throughout the Star of David. It's kind of sick.
Oh wow. So okay, so let's
Yeah.
talk about real quick. I mean, what are your gematria? I struggle with, man. For anybody who doesn't know,
Dude,
I
have you
believe
guys ever seen the
gematria is
movie
just
Pi?
The
yes,
movie what?
Pi,
pi.
Pi, like the symbol pi.
Yeah.
That whole movie is about like so. There's this guy who is he's like a mathematician, and so they find out that he can like kind of rig the stock market. He can like read, he can project like who's gonna
Right.
benefit in the stock market. And so a bunch of these Orthodox Jews like find him and find out that he's like right on the cusp of finding out the true name of God. And if you speak the true
Oh.
name of God, like the whole world will collapse in on itself and like biblical stuff. And so they try to stop him and try to like
Right.
but it's Pi is the real word of God, right? The real name of God is Pi, right?
Yeah. It's been
So
a
that's
while
what the
since
whole.
it's been
Yeah,
a
it's a
while since
super
I've seen the
cerebral
movie,
movie.
but
It's all black
yeah,
and white. That movie's
I've
sick
never
as fuck.
seen it. That's
Oh,
pretty
that's tight.
interesting.
It's really sick.
yeah. It's, I think it was like what Darren Aronofsky's first movie, right?
Darren Aronofsky, yeah, dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yo,
all
go
black and
show
white and
movie night
grainy.
on Kick or something, bro. We gotta watch
Yeah.
that live
Dude,
on Kick or something.
that'd be hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to watch. Maybe we could do a doubleheader with that and Enter the Void, because like I feel like Enter the Void has like I think about that movie. There's just certain movies that you think about, and the more the world gets weirder and weirder, I just keep thinking about that movie. That like maybe there are like processes
Bro,
of
there are no better movies to describe where we're at than fucking Idiocracy. Okay? That is no, listen. I always hated The Croc, bro. I didn't even know that this movie existed. I only watched Idiocracy last year, okay?
Okay.
But I always hated Crocs. But the fact that that's even the fucking idiot shoe just to me sells it even harder. And then I seen a video of the RNC where Hogan is talking about Trump, and it looks exactly like
Bro.
Terry Crews, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
what the fuck is that, bro? Like this is where we're
That's
at, right? We're in
Macho.
Idiocracy.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, Mike Judge, dude. That's Mike Judge. So Office Space,
Yeah.
Beavis and Butthead. Yeah, so he created Idiocracy, and it bombed at the time.
Yeah.
Nobody even thought it was funny or liked it or anything, and now it's like a cult classic.
Yeah. And it keeps coming more and more true.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, though, the Hulkamania, Trumpomania thing is pretty badass. Come on now. I am part of the Idiocracy. I was like, when he tore his shit, and he's like, "You're not gonna, whatever, shoot my president." I was like, there's just a part of every male who grew up, in the 80s and 90s that was like, yeah, like you tell
I
him,
don't know, bro. It made
Hulkster.
me kind of cringe, bro. It made me
Nah,
kind of cringe.
No, it's
I
fun, man. This shit's fun, dude. They
that shit
like
is
at
hard as
least have
fuck,
some
bro.
sense of humor. That's the problem. I think a lot of the left as like they've lost their sense of humor.
Mm,
Like nothing's funny anymore. You can't be offensive anymore.
right. Right.
No, I
So,
want offensive. I just feel like, although I guess he's old like Trump, it kind of fits. But I just feel like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't love it. I feel like it's very Idiocracy, right? And
well, okay. So, but to get a little deeper on that, like if you understand that Donald Trump actually helped out Vince McMahon in starting WrestleMania, right? So he helped fund
Right.
WrestleMania back in New York. So that's a whole New York thing. Madison Square Garden was the like main spot of the WWF, and then they
Right.
got the MTV people involved. So Cyndi Lauper and like Andy Warhol and like all these other like cool New York people. They love wrestling, and so that's kind of how they merged the two. It was like sports and a rock concert mixed together, and that was WrestleMania.
Right.
And so like, but Trump was instrumental in funding that, and he's a big New York real estate dude.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
bro, they
So.
loved Trump until they hated him. You know what I mean? Like I always say that. Like they used to suck his dick, bro. If you watch Trump throughout the early '90s and the 2000s and shit, bro, they loved him so much they were eating out of his hand, right?
Dude, there's like an article that they had with like all these rappers like name dropping him like all the time. They used to talk about him all the time. It's like rich like Donald Trump, and Nelly was
Bro,
talking about
he was
Donald Trump.
on the G Unit radio mixtapes. Like he would go sit in the radio station with 50 and Yayo and Young Buck and Lloyd Banks back in those days and just kick it with them. Smoke cigars in the studio and shit. And they'd get like all kinds of sound clips with him. And like there's all kinds of videos of this shit. Like, again, this is kind of why the racist stuff makes me laugh, right? Because if you know Donald Trump, you know that he only sees one color, and that's green.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of the free market, right? Like that's like, or what they always say, like this iPencil stuff, right? Like all these people, no one person can make a pencil, so it requires all these people from all around the world to come together to make these products. And people that don't speak the same language, practice different religions, probably would hate each other if they don't know each other, but they all collectively work together for this one thing to make these products, and it's money that's driving them. They don't care about color; they care about green, like you said, straight up.
Yeah, exactly. I have a we're nearing about the end of the show, Josh, but I do want to ask you, who are the goats of your life? Like, and it could be anybody, whatever it is, whether it's a creative inspiration or a person that you knew personally or whatever. But who would you say are the goats in your life, the people that inspired you the most to be the best you could be?
My mom.
Mama.
Moms are always goats, dude. No, but both my parents, they both encouraged me really a lot to like do art professionally, and
Man,
without them, I would not be doing what I was doing. Like no other guiding factor said
right,
like, "Hey, go do this," and like they gave me full support, and so I really got to say that that's a goat move to encourage a young
right.
mind like that to go do something like that.
Wow.
Um, like, but I mean, there's all these like other like famous people that I don't know personally who inspire me,
What
and
would you say?
there's
What would
always
you
like,
say? Is there one, say, artistic, creative, uh, influence that you have from somebody that may inform your work the most?
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there's like I always loved all the old like animators, even though like
Mm-hmm.
Walt Disney himself wasn't really an animator per se. Like he just kind of facilitated like of iWorks, the guy who created Mickey Mouse, and
Right.
then like Chuck, like but like somebody like Chuck Jones is like one of my
Oh yeah.
favorites. Like he took Bugs Bunny and gave him all of these like characteristics and like acting tropes that transcended into like real world film and stuff like that. Like
Right. Right.
he would do things like where like Wile E. Coyote, like he does like a thing of dynamite and he lights it and the
Yeah.
fuse goes and you expect it to blow up, but then it doesn't blow up, and then like the coyote goes over to it and then it blows up.
Yeah.
Like that's like a funny like timing. Like he created all these like little expressions and emotions and all this stuff. You go back and like watch his shit. They
Right.
borrowed all that stuff and put it into like modern comedy, and it was him as an animator. So
Right.
it's like him going like even further and beyond animation, right? It's like I'm not just making a cartoon. I'm bringing something to life and I'm adding like my own spin to it. So
Right.
and Hanna Barbera and all these
Yeah.
people, like I always loved all that kind of shit,
Yeah. My favorite was always Tex Avery.
Yeah, Tex Avery, exactly. He created the what's up, Doc? He did all that stuff, and then uh, yeah, I mean, like I like John Kay, and then God damn, who's the guy who did SpongeBob just passed away? I blanking his name right now, but like yeah, I mean, like there's all these like great animators out there who like took art to the next level. Like as far as I'm
Right.
concerned, like I'm a big fan of all the historic. Like John Singer Sargent is like my favorite all time painter ever.
Uh,
Like he's a great portrait artist. Like when I was in London, I went and saw his pieces there. Um, what's really cool is like there was J.C. Leyendecker. He did a bunch of
mm.
the Saturday Evening Post papers and stuff like that back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he actually taught Norman Rockwell. Of course, Norman
Okay.
Rockwell is like Americana. Everybody
Right.
knows
Right.
him, right? So
Right. Right.
so J.C. Leyendecker was before him, and I even think J.C. Leyendecker stuff is better than Norman Rockwell.
Oh
So
wow.
there was and him and Norman Rockwell were close friends. Norman Rockwell was actually a pallbearer at his funeral,
Oh
helped
wow.
carry his casket. And so there's J.C. Leyendecker, and he taught um, Norman Rockwell, and Norman Rockwell taught John Legata, and John Legata taught uh, freaking oh my gosh, uh, Barbara Bradley, and Barbara Bradley taught Chuck Pyle, and Chuck Pyle taught me.
Oh wow.
So
What?
yeah,
Dang. No
so it's
wonder,
kind of
man.
like
No
it's like
wonder
some lineage.
Josh comes from the lineage of great artists and illustrators. That's great,
I'm
man.
not saying I'm in their realm like at all, but like
Nah, buddy. You might not say it, but you are a goat, bro. I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah. Yeah. For
everything
real.
that I have ever seen you touch is gold.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
For
dude, I
real.
appreciate that, man.
We got. We're gonna.
Uh,
We'll just sprinkle your art throughout this episode. We'll just sprinkle it like randomly because it's so good.
yeah, so but
Uh.
talking about like paying homage to the legends, right? To the goats that
Mm,
came before
mm,
us.
yeah.
And that's where all this stuff comes from. We're downstream from the lineage. That's why I love history so much. As soon as you understand
Mm,
the history, you got the whole playbook of everything that's happening right now. How
right.
did people act in similar situations, and what did they learn, and what did they do, and how did they get so great? So the more we study the history, the more we understand where we are right now. And history, everybody thinks history is boring because when they were in school, they're like, "Oh, on this date, George Washington became the president." Like that, nobody cares about that. We want to know what was going on around them. What's the context? Like, what world did they live in?
Right.
Why is this important? So
right.
the more we study that, the more we truly understand it, not just knowing it, but understanding it is like, that's how you flourish, like as a person living in modern times,
Yeah. I gotta ask you, man. So as of this recording, the president got his ear shot off. Another president is, I guess, in a coma somewhere. They haven't even announced officially that he's not the president anymore, and people are vying. So I'm just curious: is there any historical precedent for what we're seeing in the United States in 2024?
Yeah. So Edith Wilson, right? So Woodrow Wilson, he had a stroke
Okay.
when he was in office, and Edith Wilson took
Oh.
over all of his presidential matters. Basically, like, she was the president. So sometimes I argue that she's the first female president, right? But she's kind of doing like a Jill Biden thing, right? Like, where she's actually
who did you say? Woodrow Wilson?
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson's wife, Edith Wilson. Yeah.
So Edith, when did she do it before he did all the crazy everything that destroyed America to today?
Yeah, I think
or
it was
it after?
more towards the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that was
okay.
after
So we can't blame her.
World War I and the Federal
We can't
Reserve
blame
and
her
stuff
for
like that.
we can't blame her for the income tax. We can't blame her for World War One. We can't blame her for the Federal Reserve. We can't blame her for being. You can't blame her for. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if they were working that close, then I'm pretty sure that she was up in the mix when all those other things were going down too. So,
listen, that was from the time when men led and women counseled, right? So, she was in his ear for sure.
Well, Abigail Adams, right? Abigail Adams was John Adams' like main counselor. Basically, she was like, gave him like all this instruction on everything to do. Same with like Hillary and Bill Clinton. They said it's 2 for 1, right? When you get Bill Clinton, you get Hillary too, and then Hillary Care and all that others before Obamacare, and so there's been all these like powerful women behind the man kind of thing, and then with Edith Wilson, she literally took over his shit. Like, so even right now,
yeah, I mean, well, okay, so I feel like we shouldn't go there, but we're going to go there. Okay, so right now, as of this recording, it is July 2024. There's question about who is going. So Joe Biden has decided he's bowing out, and he's given his endorsement to Kamala. But there's been a lot of chatter about one.
I got something for you, and it has to do with the Kamala Harris. Let's share this tab.
I want to show you guys this poster that was in the background of the show Upload from Amazon Prime that came out in 2020. Okay.
Do you see that?
Yo, get the fuck out of here, bro. If she announces Oprah as her VP, I'm gonna flee to like some remote island somewhere. You're never gonna see me again.
I mean, does Oprah have that kind of cachet still?
Yeah, well, the issue with that, the same thing with Kamala though, is that like people might like them and might say, "Oh, it's a woman, she's a person of color," and then but when she actually talks, like, she's not fooling anybody. Like, even the most ardent Democrat is going to be like, like, she really doesn't seem like she's in control, and nobody really takes her seriously, right? So even right now, people are like they just don't they like her because she's not Donald Trump. That's all they care.
Right.
Like, they just hate Donald Trump. So
I mean,
so you can be Oprah, and be like this charismatic person that's been on television and everything. But if you actually say like, "Oh, what do you think about the economy?" She's like, "We need more jobs," or something. She's not going to have like any actual.
Take away
like,
guns.
plan.
We need to make jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's going to have like these
guns for jobs.
Slogans. Yeah,
it's going to be
Kamala, or Kamala.
It's going to be. It's going to be. They're going to make the whole thing now about reproductive rights. That's what they're going to make the whole thing. They're going to try and pivot. That's the only thing that they have that still. I feel like if you're any type of Democrat, I don't know what it is, but the abortion issue is just I don't know. I don't get it. To me, it seems like way less important than war or, the Federal Reserve just printing money like crazy.
I can't eat right now, dog. People are deciding, do I pay rent or do I eat this month?
Right.
You know
But for some reason, a lot of this country still cares about whether or not you can stab a baby in the face. But unfortunately,
I have some questions for Josh.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So, you were talking about movies filmed in NYC earlier. What are your top 5 that are filmed in New York?
Independence Day. Because it wasn't really filmed there. No, real movies filmed like in New York. Damn, man. I don't even really know. I'm like trying to think off the top of my head. Because yeah, I mean, like, well, we were talking about Men in Black earlier. I do love that scene where he confronts the alien and he's chasing him, and then like he like jumps off the building, and like Will Smith is like, so what the fuck, like, and so that was pretty ill. Damn, what's like another good one? I have to like draw a blank right now. Damn, yeah, I don't really know off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, Goodfellas, right? Was that filmed in New York?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what like are some other like staples. There's like Bronx Tale and like all those other like classic ones. But yeah,
there's all the Woody Allen movies.
Bro, none of it matters. Sopranos, and Sopranos.
Of course.
That's New Jersey.
It's filmed in both places. Thanks.
Well, you said movies. You said movies, not TV shows.
I did, but then I told you it all doesn't matter because Sopranos.
I throw in, Seinfeld.
Yes.
I mean, shows. There are a lot of goated shows. And
well, that's okay, like OG, like New York, like it always seemed like so cool. And what is that movie? I just watched that movie with Amy Poehler and Paul Rudd. It's a Daniel Showalter movie. It's just like so fucking funny. But they talk about like, oh, like New York is a part of us, and like all this stuff. It's like but it just came out. It was like a comedy we watched last night. It was so funny. But like New York used to have that aura about it. Like that's the place to be. It's the center of the world kind of thing.
Right.
Now,
right.
I think like
it
used to be.
I'll just say that
you've been there more recently than me, so why don't you tell us, Ruby?
I mean, I still love it, but I'm, to be fair, I'm not in, say, the neighborhoods that would be most affected by, things happening currently. But if you're in Manhattan, it's about what it is. I don't feel like it's that different than when I was coming here when I was in college and stuff, which is like 20 years ago. So I don't know. I'm not seeing like insane, not like LA and I guess what you're saying with San Francisco, but LA for sure. The time from 2010 until I left in 2022, like, man, it I don't know if you feel that way, Josh, but LA fucking definitely the vibe changed. Not just like the homeless thing, which definitely went crazy, and the fentanyl stuff, but like I'm talking just, I don't know what it was about Trump. He just like short circuited like an entire like culture of LA was cool. It was fun. People were open minded. You could like go hang out. You could talk. Like I remember talking to people who were like who would have described themselves as like left leaning, talking about the Federal Reserve and them being like cool with it, and and exploring ideas of people. And then once 2016 kicked in, it was just like, and then COVID, which is where we met. We're COVID warriors. Man, like it just, the whole vibe, I feel like in LA just got destroyed.
I hate going back to that whole sabotage thing, man. Like one third of the small businesses in California didn't return after 2020.
Man,
like insane. Everything else was allowed to stay open. Home Depot, Walmart, all these other big box stores, they all got to stay open, but every mom and pop shop had to close down. They couldn't last the 2 years or however long it was that they couldn't be open. So yeah, it's just tragic, man. I just hope that someday people will be like, oops, like we messed up, and they just kind of do the Homer Simpson
nope. No apology.
That's what they're doing, right? They're like, oh, like mistakes were made. Can we just move on?
Yeah.
Like,
or they double down. They double down. They're like, it's insane.
Well, like Ben Affleck's daughter.
What does she do?
Ben Affleck's daughter has lost her mind. Like she is out here freaking out for people to wear masks at this current moment.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
But my last question for you. Pardon?
What's up with your boy Trudeau?
Oh man.
We can't. 2 guys got arrested for saying they were going to kill him.
Wow.
So, well, don't say that word. Fresh.
You said a no word.
in Minecraft.
So Josh, the last thing I want to ask you, do you have any up and coming artists that you're looking at right now that you have your eye on?
Oh, man, dude, there's this wild ass like pixel artist that I follow on Twitter. Actually, I feel bad. I should know their name, but like there's a bunch of like these crazy ass like digital artists out there right now. They're doing like really cool like pixel animated, and it's all like futuristic, techie looking kind of stuff. I think it's so cool. They're mixing like kind of like traditional 2D illustration with this kind of digitized like techie kind of textures and stuff like that, and it looks so dope. You know, I've always been a big fan of like James Jean. Has always been like a hero of mine, and he's more of like a modern illustrator. And then of course like Mike Giant, OG like graffiti artist, tattoo artist, dude. You know, so those two guys are probably like, as far as like contemporary artists, they've always been an inspiration for me. Like when I see their shit, I'm like, that's tight. You know,
Nice. Yeah, if you share that other artists like after or whatever, we can always insert them in real quick. Like
I'll find that.
show a little
Find
bit
the
of his
pixel
art.
artist. Yeah, they're dope.
Have you heard of Jay Pierce?
Jay Pierce? Nah, I don't think so. What's their style like?
It's really I've met him once. My lady met him before too. He went to her work, and he's done all kinds of crazy paintings for like Rick Ross and some of the big celebrities. He kind of has this like cartoonish Jay Pierce. Let me bring it up since I said it. Give him his 10 seconds of fame.
I have one more question, but I don't know, Fresh and Deezy, if I should ask Josh this question, because we got so much hate for this one.
Ask him the question.
All right. Drake or Kendrick?
It's funny. I was thinking about that, and because I heard that you guys got a lot of flack for all that.
Because I know you, Josh. You love Drake, dude. Or
Grizzly
did. I
Drake,
don't know.
yeah.
I don't know how you feel about him now, but I mean, you like Drake and me and you riding around LA, Drake, Kanye, excuse me. And then also I mean, Fresh, Josh is a 90s hip hop head, dude.
But doesn't that say it
But I
all
mean,
though?
like, well, you got to hold it down for the West Coast, and like I always got to be down with the West Coast artists like Kendrick, of course, the protege of Dr. Dre and everything. Drake has so many more like bangers. Like it's just like his catalog is so deep, and then he did the whole like "Not Like Us" thing, in which that's about like Drake not being 100% black, right? Like that's what that's all about, right? But then everybody's gonna get behind Kamala Harris. So all the people that have been saying "Not Like Us" this whole time, and then they're all gonna get behind Kamala Harris. Like, I just find like a hypocrisy there, you know. So, and I don't really like that. I don't like that rhetoric either. Like "Not Like Us." Like music's supposed to bring people together, and you're trying to say like "Not Like Us," and like why would you say like people aren't like you and stuff like that? It's like, yeah, we all know that. We all know that everybody's not like everybody else, and we're all different. But that's the beauty of art, right? Music and art are supposed to bring us together. So I'd say that Drake's music has brought a lot more people together than Kendrick Lamar's music. So if you want to look at it like that, but then other people would say, "Oh, well, hip hop's not meant for other people," and it's like, okay, if you want to have that attitude about music, then that's on you. Like the type of person that has that mentality,
you already lost.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. What,
This is Jay Pierce. This is the kind of stuff.
I recognize this stuff. Yeah, that dude's name is Popel. So he's at Popel20 on Twitter. If you want to check that dude out too. This is cool, like cool pop art style.
Yeah,
like
he does. Yeah, and he does a lot of like Mario cartoon stuff, a lot of money type stuff, banks, big bags of money. It's pretty cool. It's fun. A lot of it like pops in your face, it's really bright. But cool. I also wanted to share this with you guys. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the video of Terrence McKenna talking about how the future is going to just continue to get weirder and weirder. This was in 1998. But it's honestly, it's really interesting, and it kind of ties in everything we've been talking about today. Sound dead?
Present
Oh, my bad.
levels
Okay, we can. There you go.
get weirder. The level of contradiction is going to rise excruciatingly, even beyond the excruciating present levels of contradiction. I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. And at that point, novelty theory can come out of the woods, because eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's just too nuts. It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. So between now and 2012, the next 14 years, I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, and at the same time, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, race baiting, homophobia, famine, starvation, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The collapse of the socialist world, the rise of the internet, these are changes so immense, nobody could imagine them ever happening. And now that they have happened, nobody even bothers to mention what a big deal it is. The fact that there is no such thing as the Soviet Union, people never talk about it anymore. But when I was a kid, the notion that that would ever change was beyond conceiving. So the good news is that as primates, we're incredibly adaptable to change. Put us in a desert, we survive. Put us in the jungle.
That's pretty much what I wanted to share with you guys. That like
That's awesome.
how
Yeah.
he describes it's just gonna systematically become crazier and crazier until everyone's like, "What the hell is going on?" Like, and that you
So
can't
true.
just say it's crazy anymore. You have to like go through and describe what about things are crazy and
Right.
give an actual estimation of the whole thing in a verbal
Right.
construction, just to try to tell somebody this is why it's crazy, instead of saying, yeah, it's crazy. I think everybody should see that this is crazy what's going on. You have to say it's crazy because of X, Y, Z, and you have to like explain yourself when everybody around you is also like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
It's so
This shouldn't be such a deep thought, like such a deep fucking, you know what I mean? It's just like when I should be able to say, look at that crazy shit. And you should be able to be like, holy fuck, that's crazy. But now I
because X, Y, and Z. I shouldn't have to explain
exactly,
it. You should
exactly.
see it with your own eyes.
Everybody should know it. But again, idiocracy, right? But I argue the internet is not the problem, because I feel like the internet proves that the knowledge has never been the problem. I truly believe the problem was who was in power during the formative years of the internet, and it was socialists. And I believe that socialism in itself destroys a nation or whatever. And I think that the internet just speeds that shit up.
Yeah, well, that's why going back to the understanding of history, why it's so important to understand history, because if you don't know what came before it, you don't understand why it's so absurd now. And also,
Right.
like Michael Mallis's book, The White Pill, he talks about how horrible conditions were in the Soviet Union, like where you couldn't even say the wrong thing or be around the wrong people, or you and your whole family get snatched up and been sent to a gulag or murdered or whatever else. And he said that one day, like the Berlin Wall just came down,
Right.
and communism just ended. Just one day, it just ended. It's kind of like how COVID came about. Like one day there was no COVID, and the next day it was like, oh, everyone's locked in their house and can't go outside without a mask and blah blah blah, right? So like things can happen like in an instant. What, or like 9/11. Everything was on September 10th. Everyone was watching Britney Spears and dancing in Limp Bizkit and having fun and doing all this stuff, and then next thing you know, like everything changes. So
Right.
things can flip towards the good too. So just because things are so bad now doesn't mean that one day an epiphany could happen and everybody's just sort of like, this shit's absurd. I mean, even right now, everything's so exposed right now, right? Everybody's like, this shit's so absurd. We don't like either of these candidates. We don't like the way our country's going. Like, let's just stop and do what works, So that's the white pill. That's optimism, but don't.
Hey, listen. I think that's the perfect way to conclude this amazing show with you, man. Stay hopeful, people. America, the world. Like Deezy said, shit's getting weirder, but I'm hopeful, man. I think that at some point we'll just get used to the weirdness and then we'll just move on. You know what I'm saying? At least that's what we'll do. But first of all, Josh, thank you so much, man. I'm gonna toast you again, bro.
Dude,
I'm gonna toast you again,
pleasure,
bro. I'm gonna toast you, bro. Cheers to that.
Brought to you by LaCroix.
Toast to you,
Not a
sir.
sponsor, but you could be. Not a sponsor, but you could be. LaCroix, hit us up.
Yeah, LaCroix, you get involved in this?
Hey, yo, Whole Foods, what we doing now? Come on now. Toast it up. But no, man, seriously, thank you so much for doing this interview. This is what we're gonna.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely, man. We're doing the homie shows, but we're gonna be doing more of these types of interviews with people that we love and respect, that are truly goats, in so many ways. So if you like that out there, whoever's watching, you know what to do. You got to likes. I always forget this. What are we gonna do? Liking, sharing.
Bro, you gotta like it, subscribe, click the bell, comment, send it to your mom, send it to your bestie, send it to whoever.
What you should also do, though, is you should make sure to follow Josh on all his socials as well. So, Josh, where can we find all of your amazing art and anything else that you would like to share with the world?
Everything is Joshua Clements. So joshuaclements.com, at Joshua Clements on Twitter, on Instagram. My email, josh@joshuaclements.com. Hit me up. Everything is Joshua Clements. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll put all that in the description. And, everybody, I just want to do a little recap and then we'll get out of here. I just want to say, listen, parents, quit telling your kids to be nerds. Get them skateboarding. They'll learn discipline and they might scratch their elbow or their knee, but hey, they're going to be better humans for it. Don't join a secret society. Network, meet people, hang out, but don't join a secret society.
Create your own secret society.
There you go. Let's do it that way. And last thing I'd just like to say is, whatever happens, in this election coming up, it's going to be fucked up.